Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well. Just some housekeeping before we get on. First of all, yes, you look absolutely amazing. How do you do it? I feel about 50 today, and this video is going to be a rant. So pre-warning. And look, what I will say is this. Actually, hold on one second. There will be some changes to videos. Some of my videos I pre-record and sometimes I have to shift them around. And because I've got into this weird, strange habit of feeling proud every time I know what day it is, sometimes the videos will now have days in them that don't correlate with when they're uploaded because I'm shifting things around. So, look, first of all, we'll just touch very briefly on the tunnels. The tunnels that apparently are under the University of Idaho, and there's speculation as to whether these go up around Greek Row and all this. Look, this seems to be, and I'll put a link in description, by the way, for Thou Shalt Not Kill True Crimes channel. That is Rory. He's done a video on this topic more in depth. If you haven't heard about it, yes, there are some tunnels under the, apparently under the university around Moscow, Idaho, but it's not. What I will say, I don't want to ruin it because there still could be something in it, but what I will say is it's not uncommon for there to be tunnels. There is something that I do find slightly off with it, and that is that if you look at, say, Washington State University, for instance, or Illinois, you can easily go onto the internet and grab the schematics for them. So you can pretty much see exactly where the tunnels are. And that is quite apparent across the United States, where steam plants and energy, everyone's gone energy crazy, haven't they? You know, they want to try and bring down the cost of energy. And it would appear that these steam tunnels and the subsequent inspection tunnels that go alongside them, yeah, they're rife throughout the United States, so it's not uncommon. Obviously, if these tunnels were utilised for other nefarious methods, then, you know, they could almost be a trafficker's dream, you could say. But, look, it's not uncommon for them to be there. There's also some myths surrounding Chinese tunnels, so don't get mixed up with that. There's some stories that date back many, many years to kind of a secret community, if you like, and it has sparked other stories. I believe that there was a similar situation around Truckee as well. I don't want people to get me. These tunnels that we're talking about here are specifically with regards to the steam plant and energy saving methodology that was used for steam. Anyway, go and watch the video, check it out. Anyway, swiftly moving along. This ABC thing, with regards to this hit piece that was done on social media that Drunk Turkey Show got themselves embroiled with. And the only thing I'm going to say, look, like I say, I've got no hate towards Daniel at the Drunk Turkey Show whatsoever. I do not believe that guy or that channel to be doing anything nefarious, any nature. The issue that I have is that they made themselves appear that they do. And by doing so, they made the true crime niche as a whole be questioned as to their authenticity, the way in which they operate, and what their motives are behind what they do. And, you know, it's sad because you would expect someone who, for some of their work and career, to kind of base that surrounding the idea that anything that you can say may be used as evidence. So look, like I say, but anyway, this has kind of now given other YouTubers, such as Iked Mel, the opportunity to state that certain YouTubers, including myself, are conspiracy theorists. We push conspiracy theories. And what I'm going to say to this is this. This is going to be my comeback, if you like. And what we're going to get to in a second is the Bryan Kohberger situation specifically. But what I'm saying is, look, in America, I would like to think that especially American citizens believe in some of the foundations that you stand for, this innocent until proven guilty. So to turn around and basically say that if you are talking about anything that could give the perception that Bryan Kohberger could in fact be innocent of this crime that he is being accused of, then what does that mean for you as an individual? You know, that just means that you don't believe in that. You believe in, because law enforcement have said that this is the guy, that you believe that. You take that as gospel, and you don't think that any questions should be asked. Or what you're saying is some people can ask questions about it, but other people are not allowed to question it and ask questions about it. But what you fail to address is that for many people, social media is their only conduit to the outside world. There are people who are sick and can't leave the house, are bedbound. There are people who do not have family, they do not have loved ones around them. And again, social media is their conduit to the outside world. There are people who there are crimes and crimes around them, such as the potential Oregon serial killer that we've seen. There were people in Oregon, females, who didn't know about that crime. And because we brought that to the attention of people and brought that out more widely so people could understand what was going on, that could have potentially saved a life. It could have done. You cannot say it couldn't, because currently there's at least 6 females who have been killed in a very short space of time. We don't know why, we don't have any answers, and there were females there who didn't fucking know. So look, there's an argument to each side of the fence, but to turn around and say that in the Bryan Kohberger case, that if you are considering any other option, then you are a conspiracy theorist, there's 2 words that I feel are incredibly relevant to you as an individual, and that is fuck and off. And now I'm going to tell you for why. If you currently, as you watch this video, the day that this is released, something else could happen in the future, obviously, but as of the uploading of this video, Bryan Kohberger should have the presumption of innocence. He is yet to go through due process and for him to be judged, and for that to be finalised. As it stands at the moment, where we are in that situation, is that the prosecution are trying to force Bryan Kohberger to give them his alibi, should he have one. And that is not right. In accordance with the process of law, to try to force him to give his alibi now, in my opinion, is unconstitutional. Why are they so hell-bent on getting him to give his alibi now? Why must he give it now? And what I will say, for anyone who turns around and says, well, if he did have an alibi, he'd give it now. The fact of the matter is this. It takes, and I believe it was JB Gunner who said this the other day, you can have an alibi, but having one and being able to have an established alibi are 2 very, very different things. And if the prosecution are so fucking sure that they have the right person and they have all the evidence that they need to convict, then why are they so concerned about his alibi? Shouldn't matter, because they know they've got the right person. Anyway, like I say, with respect of questioning this case, why do we question it? I touched on this yesterday in a short video that I did, and I'm going to slightly extrapolate upon that now. And that is that many things in this case don't sit right. Do not sit right. We have a situation where Bryan Kohberger drives a 2015 Hyundai Elantra, but the car with which they were originally searching for isn't a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. The picture that they show of the car that they're looking for doesn't match. Law enforcement also alluded to the fact that this car potentially had occupants, not occupant. Occupants, not occupant. Also, originally, the time frame for these killings was between 3 and 4 a.m. Well, surely before reaching out and speaking to the public and this information being released, someone must have had a conversation with Dylan Mortensen, and Dylan Mortensen must have at that stage told them that she saw someone leave. Anyway, I digress. We also have other situations which don't sit right, and that is the issues surrounding the DNA and the knife sheath itself. We also have 2 court documents written by 2 different officers that read word for word identical, albeit when it gets to the aforementioned problem area, which is the sheath. But everything else, it was almost like it was a copy and paste of one another's document. And for those of you who have followed the case, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you don't deserve to have a comment on this anyway. And I don't mean that so much about people who are new to the case and just getting in. I mean the people who are hell-bent on saying that people like me who question things are wrong. If you are now one of these people who think that I'm wrong in what I'm talking about, but you can't answer the question as to what 2 documents I'm talking about, then you do not have a right to question what I say. Anyway, moving forwards, we have had a situation where mainstream media have been the ones who have pushed out, and I showed it in the video that I did yesterday, specific articles with headlines that read that Bryan Kohberger is the killer. They have pushed bullshit numerous times, but I don't hear these other YouTubers having the bollocks to call out mainstream media. They're too busy hanging on their coattails and pointing the finger at other content creators who dare to say, hold on a second, that doesn't really look right. It doesn't really sit right. And dare to consider that Bryan Kohberger, as it stands at the moment, could potentially have an alibi. And I ask you now, what happens in the event that Bryan Kohberger does have an alibi? What if this guy does indeed have an alibi? Now look, with regards to Bryan Kohberger, and hold on, let me just back up a second. And why do I think he could have an alibi? Because this guy, before all the most recent grand jury situation stemmed, and let's just put this here as well. So the reason, from a legal perspective, it has been stated that Bryan Kohberger stood silent is because he did not agree with the grand jury process. Didn't agree with it. It was as if I'm not even acknowledging it. This is not right. So anyway, moving forward slightly, you turn around. Yeah. Anyway, the Bethany Funk situation, the exculpatory evidence. Now, some people boo-pooed out or rubbish at whatever, but that's where we was. Before the grand jury all of a sudden had convened and gone to that and just very goalkeeper-like stopped Bethany Funk being spoken to, he had called her as evidence could have potentially been with her that would be exculpatory to his case. Anyway, we'll leave a pin in that. With regards to Bryan Kohberger, that entire situation is still being investigated. Still being investigated now. Bryan Kohberger was apparently killed because he was holding roommates hostage. They were hostages. But they weren't in the room at the time. They weren't in there. He was in the room on his own. And he was gunned down. There is nothing about that situation that seems to follow proper protocol for that situation. And there are questions surrounding that in itself. And what I'm saying is that situation was wrong. It was just wrong. But how does Bryan Kohberger fit in with Bryan Kohberger? And is this truly a conspiracy theory? What we're supposed to believe in this Bryan Kohberger timeline, if you like, and we'll call it the Bryan Kohberger timeline, is that Bryan Kohberger committed this crime in approximately 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Now, some people will turn around and say, look, it's doable, it's easy. But they don't factor in some of the things that you have to factor in to make it make sense. Like, you have to remember that what we're being told is that the surviving roommates didn't know anything. They didn't know anything. They didn't see anything, really. They didn't hear anything apart from what they thought was someone playing with a dog, and, you know... And they witnessed someone walking out of the house. But there was nothing untoward. There was nothing that would lead them to believe that people had been killed in the house. So he enters this house. He's driving his car at, 4 minutes past 4, 2 minutes past 4, parks up somewhere, gets in the house and does what he does and gets out of the house, and he's seen by a camera driving away at 20 past 4 a.m. And then you've got to factor in getting from the car to the house, getting in the house. And I said yesterday, it weren't like he busted in this house, hey, I'm here, fucking hell, I'm late. You know, he didn't do that. He would have crept in, got in, and then he's got to navigate this house in the dark. And we've been told by people such as Dave that you walk in this house, there's just doors everywhere. You don't know which rooms are bedrooms, you don't know which rooms are cupboards, and you go into this house. He's then got to navigate the house, get to where the people are, have the altercation, come back down. He's got into another altercation downstairs, all while someone's a few feet away and doesn't really hear anything. So he's done all this relatively quietly because it hasn't roused them, even though apparently they were roused earlier by what was happening above them upstairs in another room. I don't get it. You're supposed to believe all that. When in reality, if you even think about it like this, what if Bryan Kohberger and Bryan Kohberger were friends? They were friends. Can you genuinely say that they didn't know each other? Bearing in mind they fucking lived a stone's throw away from each other. And Bryan Kohberger was someone who spoke to people, he talked to people, and Bryan Kohberger, I'm sure, was a fantastic guy, and he probably talked to people as well. These two seemingly would have gotten along. Is it out of the realms of possibility that Bryan Kohberger had gone into Washington, into Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, and done this crime and called Bryan Kohberger to help him? Got into an altercation, whatever, I don't know. And Bryan Kohberger actually got in his car, drove over there to help someone, and waited outside, picked them up, and left again. Now, it doesn't make Bryan Kohberger innocent of what happened because he's helped someone involved in it. But you're telling me that there's no way that makes sense. That doesn't make sense whatsoever. We know that Bryan Kohberger took his phone. Why did he take his phone? Why did this guy take his phone? Why would you take your phone to commit a crime of this magnitude? Why would you drive your own car to get caught on camera, to be seen? And why would there be confusion with the cars as well? Didn't Bryan Kohberger himself drive, I believe it has been said, a silver Hyundai Elantra, potentially? I'm not saying that is fact. I'm saying that is what is being said. I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to question whether there could be an alternative story to all this. And the only way that you're right in handling it is to condemn Bryan and say, look, regardless of anything, he's guilty. He's guilty. I know he's not gone through due process, but if you want to challenge it or say that anyone else could have been involved or said anything, you're the one who's in the wrong. I just don't get it. I don't get it. People tell me now down below, tell me all of these things that have been said, the time frames, the car not looking the same in the picture as Bryan Kohberger's. I challenge the people who are saying that it's conspiracy theory to bring that up and go through it themselves. Go through that themselves. Explain why they have the prosecution is trying to force Bryan Kohberger into giving his alibi now. Why is that a thing? The DNA situation surrounding the knife sheath, why is that so problematic? Why is it so problematic? The gag order, why are they gagging everything when in reality you've got stuff being talked about in this case? The judge himself in the hearing yesterday turned around and basically said, I don't see what the media's problem is. You're talking about this case anyway. Well, the argument could be thrown back and say, well, I don't see what your problem is then by lifting the gag order. All you're going to do is have more control over what is being said. So when you're acknowledging as a judge that shit is being said, and by your own admission that the stuff that's being put out is lies, then don't have a gag order, because then lies can't be told. That's simple. I should have been in that courtroom. Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.